I sent out a newsletter yesterday to my mailing list, and one of you responded and you really enjoyed it, which is nice, and you asked me to make a YouTube video, and I promised you that I would. But I have spoken about this on many videos, but I guess some people need to hear it again. It's my story from a certain point from my early 20s and how I changed, basically how I overcame my anxiety, built my confidence and transformed my life in every single area. So the moral of the story is I was suffering badly, the way a lot of you are, some of my clients, or some people that write to me. It got to a breaking point where I was thinking about committing suicide. Thank God I didn't do it, but those thoughts were going on in my head. So, can't really get any worse than that, or that's bad enough. And I suffered with panic attacks every day. I had bad social anxiety, life anxiety, low self-esteem. I was just afraid of everything. My fear was definitely blown out of proportion. But obviously, when you're dealing with it, it's kind of real, with the emotions, the fears, the stress. And I just literally felt stuck every day. And I remember I didn't want to come out of my house in Fulham. The only time I come out of my house was when I had to come out. I had to pay a bill, or I had to go and get some money from the bank and get food. And even that, everything seemed like a battle. It weren't normal, And I always say this to people. I try and say it, look, anxiety is normal. Everybody has anxiety. But there's a certain level where it's abnormal, where it's a disorder, like it's too high. And that's where mine was back then. And I was always in a pattern. My clients go through this until I help them on my programs. It was just a pattern that just kept going on, story in my head. And I had my own personal demons that were affecting me, regardless of what anybody else thought. And those patterns were pretty much in this order. I felt bad because I didn't have a girlfriend, I didn't have a dating life. I always wanted to fall in love and have a girlfriend, and I didn't have that, and I felt terrible about myself for that. I also didn't have any money or much money. I was always in between dead-end jobs, and I felt powerless, and I felt bad about that. Thirdly, I felt bad about the fact that I was awkward and I was anxious, at least in my own head. That might not have been completely true in reality, but I felt awkward. I didn't feel I could be myself around. I could be myself around people that I knew, but it didn't feel right. I knew that wasn't entirely the truth. I couldn't really meet new people and relax around them. I didn't trust anyone. That really affected me as well. Like not trusting people made me feel strange, ashamed, confused, frustrated, etc. I blame myself for all this. The big one that was affecting me as well, amongst those fears and insecurities that I had, was not having a woman, not having a career or steady income, was I wasn't successful at anything. And despite my anxiety, my low self-esteem and my paranoia and all my deep insecurities, I always believed deep down that I was meant to be successful at something. I didn't know what that something was at that time. So I had all these things going on. And then I had things in the past that bothered me. And yeah, they bullied me, definitely did. Things that had happened to me that other people had done where I'd been belittled, dominated, bullied, and I didn't stand up for myself. And I was carrying those things, and it used to bother me a lot. It used to make me angry, keep me up at night. I used to feel ashamed. I used to think, I'm a coward. How could I let, that person do that to me? Why didn't I do something about it? So that's a lot to deal with for a young man or anyone. When you're dealing with all these things and they're coming at you every day, and the voice is saying, how come you haven't got a girlfriend? You're an absolute loser. You're a disgrace. You're ugly. No one would ever want to date a guy like you. You should kill yourself. You are just like a shameful person. Your family would be ashamed of you. Everyone would be. When you're hearing that every day, it's not nice. And then the other stuff coming at me, you're in your 20s, you didn't go to university, you've not succeeded at anything. You've got no credentials. If you meet someone and they ask you what job do you do, you're going to be embarrassed because you're going to be saying, I don't have a job, or I'm on benefits, or I'm in between jobs, I didn't go uni, not achieved anything. And that killed me inside personally. So there was a bit of a contradiction going on. It makes sense now, kind of a good contradiction, where I had such low self-esteem, I was so insecure about who I was, what I was, how I was living, and what I hadn't achieved. But despite all of that, somewhere in me, which I realise what that was now, I can get to that in a second, thank God, that was my saving grace. Something in me actually did like me, did believe in me, knew I could get a girlfriend, knew I could make money, knew I could be successful, knew I could make new friends. And I think the reason why I had that, because I have to say this as well, this is positive, despite having a traumatic childhood, I did have a wonderful childhood as well. I'm lucky to have good parents that brought me up well, and I had great friends growing up. I'm very lucky that I had that. I lived in a multicultural area, so as a kid, naturally, I just met, friends, and in my generation, if someone liked you, they'll take you to their house, you meet their parents quickly, and I always got good responses from people's parents. They always seemed to like me and trust me, which was flattering, and obviously my mum was proud of that because my parents brought me up well, good manners. I wasn't a saint though, but I was a good kid. And so I think that gave me a sense of value, self-esteem, and obviously, as I said, I don't think anyone's parents are perfect, but my parents are good people, and the love that I got growing up. But what really affected all that was most of the trauma was at school, the bullying. I went to a rough school, and I grew up on a council estate. It was a rough area. I'm not going to exaggerate. I say I'm from the ghetto, I'm this and that, but it was like that. Drugs, violence, crime, bullying, gangs. I suppose today it's kind of normal now. So it all affected me, dealing with these things and going through a lot of bullying and being made fun of at school and judged and all that. It started to break me down. So despite having some belief, my unbelief was stronger at the time. So let's make it simple. My anxiety was so high that my confidence was just belittled by it. So where there was a confident person in me somewhere, and that was a confident kid, but that kid, it felt like that kid was so far removed from the person that I was at that time, which was in my early 20s, living in a nice area, but not in a nice place. I was grateful for it, but it was a shoebox. It wasn't really a nice place. It was kind of dingy and it was depressing. But thank God, obviously I'm grateful for it, well grateful for it, but I was depressed, I was afraid. And I didn't know how to ask for help. I couldn't do it at the time. I didn't have the character to do it. I didn't trust people. My pride got in the way and I was too embarrassed. I didn't feel comfortable sharing what was going on with me inside. I didn't think people would understand, first and foremost. Second, I didn't think they'd care. And number three, I didn't feel safe to share these things with people. My mum knew about some of it and my dad didn't know all of it because I kept it to myself. I was ashamed of it for many years. I was protecting myself. I was afraid of being hurt even more than what I was already going through. So I was suffering really, really bad to the point where I couldn't really speak to, I wouldn't ask women out. I was too afraid of rejection. I'd had a little bit of rejection growing up as a kid and it hurt me, it broke me down. So of course I developed negative schemas and insecurities, and as I said, not just with anxiety, which was horrible, panic attacks, my inner conversation was constant. I couldn't get a break from it, guys. Whoever's listening, guys and girls, I couldn't get a break from the same conversation. You don't have money, you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a career, you haven't achieved anything, you're a loser, you're a failure, everybody else is doing well, you're different, you're like, I almost feel like I'm outcast. That's how I felt. So I got to a point where, a lot of people get to this point where I couldn't take it anymore. I just had enough. It was healthy in a way because I just thought, I can't do it, I'm done, I can't do it no more. I'm tired of hiding and running and being afraid. I started praying at the time. Some of you don't know, and I don't push my faith on other people. I don't think that's not my calling. But I've always believed in Jesus, always believed in Jesus Christ, was a Christian. Faith kind of slipped in and out. I started doing some praying. I was praying for help, praying for the anxiety just to go away, the pain and the fear, the nervousness I was always getting. I remember even if I got a letter through the door, I'd be terrified, just be worried that I'm in trouble, I've done something wrong. I was always anticipating something bad's going to happen to me. Someone's coming for me. Paranoia, which makes sense now, originates back to trauma and things like that, right? So where was I? I just said, God, I can't do it no more. I cried, please help me. I can't, I need help. I want to get out of this feeling of not being able to change. That's one of my biggest fears I had. I had lots of fears, but the biggest fear was, and I'd hear this voice sometimes, I don't mean like a voice like I'm crazy, but my own fears, my thoughts would be, you can never change it. And that terrified me because there's no hope then. It's like, if I can never get a girlfriend, what am I going to do then? I'll be on my own. It's not normal. Or if I can't ever get a job, or I can't succeed, or I can't change and get over this problem and build my confidence, kind of build it back, to be honest. So I was quite confident as a young kid before I got traumatized. I was outgoing, I was charming, I was caring, I trusted people, I got on with people, I wasn't filtered, I wasn't in my head, I wasn't paranoid, I wasn't so insecure, I didn't feel ugly. These things, you know, they developed a little bit later on from the bullying and the trauma. Self-doubt kicked in. So after praying, coincidentally, a friend of mine had a book anyway, and he said to me, I'm reading this book, you know, it's amazing, you should read it. And I wasn't interested, I was defensive, I didn't really want to hear it. He said, it's a motivational book, and it's by Les Brown, he's brilliant. I heard the name, went, oh, that's interesting, happy for you, but I just missed it. Now, I'm at home, I don't have much money, I've got a cheap phone. This is when YouTube wasn't what it is now. I've got a little bit of credit on my phone, right? For those of you who don't know the word credit, you know, and I get YouTube up. And I don't know what inspired me, but I wrote Les Brown in. His videos came up, and I played when I listened to it. I was laying on my bed, I think I had the headphones in, or I can't remember the phone. And I heard the words, and it got my attention. And it wasn't that long, it made me cry. It made me cry because I felt like he understands what I'm going through. He's been through it, he's overcome it. And I think the reason I cried, because it was like hope. Because he said certain words that they resonated with me at that time. And the words made me feel, well, I am good enough. I'm not this person I think I am. I can get out of this. Things will get better. I can change, and I'm going to change them. And he's told his story about, you know, being teased at school, being called the dumb one, people laughing at him, being rejected, feeling he's not good enough, not being qualified. And then he met a teacher who said to him, you know, can you come up to the front of the board and solve this equation? And he said, I can't do that, sir. And he said, why not? And then the kid said, because he's DT. And the teacher said, what's DT? And the kid said, he's the dumb twin, he's the dumb one. And I identified with that because I was called dumb at school as well. Even though I wasn't dumb, I was a smart kid. But according to certain school teachers, and of course when you have anxiety and you start stuttering, I got a bit awkward, I got judged for it. And I associated, oh, if I get awkward, that's because I'm dumb, I'm slow, I'm stupid socially, which isn't true. It's very far from the truth. But as a young kid, with the rules that are around me, the way that people viewed that and the rules that people make up, I interpreted, well, I'm anxious, I get nervous because I'm a dumb person. If people are smart, I'm dumb. So when he said that, that's really what spoke to my heart. That's what got my attention. Then he went on to say, it's possible you can live. I know it sounds cheesy now, but the way he said it was beautiful. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. You can live your dreams. You can change your reality anytime you want. And then he went on to say, you don't believe in yourself right now, but you've got greatness, you've got talents, you've got abilities, you've got the ability to change thousands of people's lives. And something in me said, I've always kind of felt I could do that as a kid. I didn't know what it was. I always thought I could inspire people. I always thought I had that courage in me, that heart in me, that empathy, that I had it as a kid at school. I just didn't understand how to articulate it. I didn't know what it was doing. I thought, is it a footballer? Is it a boxer? Is it an actor? Is it an entertainer? Is it a teacher? Is it an academic? I didn't know what it was, but I just had some inkling that I'm born to do something much greater than what my circumstances are presenting and what people have told me growing up, which is, you know, one school teacher said, and there's nothing wrong with this job, but the way she said it, I didn't want to, she said, when you leave school, Jonathan, you're going to be nothing, you're going to be a road sweeper. Terrible thing to say to a kid, a young aspiring kid. Obviously the teacher was very wrong now. Look what I'm doing now. So all these things, you know, made me feel terrible. So when he said that, I was like, wow, I always had this passion to be successful and to be, not in a tacky way, but to inspire people, to be someone that, you know, people respect and look up to, that can change people's lives. And I think it might even go back to school, where I got bullied at school, but there were kids that got bullied worse than me, and I stuck up for them. Because at a certain point, even though I was a victim of bullying, there will be a certain point where people would push me, and I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take crap from anyone. And my father installed that in me. I'm proud he did. So I had that courage, you know, like a scared lamb. If you keep pressuring a scared, vulnerable person, and you put a certain amount of pressure, they can just change like that and become a beast. They can become a monster. I mean, in a healthy way, like. And I did that at school, and I realised, whoa, I've got a power. I thought I was a weakling. And it started to make sense what he was saying, you know, about this self-belief and this strength. And when I was listening to stuff, when I cried, the cry, it wasn't a weak cry, it was a strong man's cry. It was a cry like, that's it, I'm not having it no more. I know I can do this. This man has told me, you know, I've got this. This is going to work out. And he was honest. I loved Les Brown. I still love him to bits because he didn't lie. He wasn't a liar like a lot of these people online that just want. There's nothing wrong with selling, because I'm selling in everything I do. I believe in what I do. Selling's great if there's integrity and you've got people's best interest at heart. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't like it when people sell and it's bollocks. They're not telling the truth. They're not helping people. He was. I knew he was. I could sense it. So I believed in him. I believed that he believed in me, even though he hadn't met me. I was listening to his stuff. It spoke to me, and I made a decision. And this is something that I've noticed lately that a lot of people don't do, and that's why they don't change. I made a commitment to myself. And I'll tell you guys a commitment now, because this is in the past. It was private back then, no longer. I want to inspire people. I made a commitment that I'm not running anymore from my fear and anxiety. I'm not avoiding those places where I was always avoiding. Talking to women, people, boxing gyms, weightlifting gyms, job interviews, extended family members, new people, traveling, public transport, supermarkets, eye contact, intimacy, openness. I'm not hiding my anxiety no more. I'm showing all of it. I'm going all out, one by one. That's what I did. Over a period of 18 months, I transformed my life. I heard Les Brown at 25. Okay, let's say three years and a bit. By the time I heard it at 25, I think, by the time I was 28, I started my business and it succeeded like 18 months later. So there's a couple of years listening to him. And I remember, you know, I transformed as a person 18 months later. That's the power of positive motivational stories that are honest. And I went and did what he said. And everything he said came true. He said, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to motivate yourself. You're going to fail at the start. You're going to get, and I did. I failed in everything. Everything that I did at the start, I failed in. I failed in dating with women. I got rejected because I wasn't confident enough yet. I failed in business. I didn't make any money. I couldn't really excel, but I kept going. And I kept believing in myself, and I kept seeing those little bits of improvement. And funny enough, me failing was the best. That gave me freedom, because I was so afraid of being a failure. So I had to go for it. So it's funny that the failure gave me confidence, because it's like, well, I was afraid of this all my life, and now I've got rejected. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I'm not dead. I don't even feel bad. I feel good because I tried. So a lot of things happened which he said, but obviously I had to go for it myself. I had to really live what he was teaching and not just internalize it intellectually. And so I applied it. And that's where all my teaching comes from. That's why you hear it in my talks, everything I do, because I went out and made it happen and found what worked. And it enabled me to figure out where I was going wrong for many years. A lot of it was taking advice from unqualified people, intellectual cowards who read books but don't take action. He was all about action, Les Brown, which I resonated with. So as I went through this process, I went from a guy who struggled to leave his house, even where I lived in shared housing. We had a separate bathroom. I used to be afraid to go to the bathroom in case I saw other flatmates. That's how frightened I was. So I went from a guy that was that scared to a guy that, you know, was coaching people from all around the world. And just, you know, so many dates went on, business meetings, public talks, thousands of YouTube videos. But the commitment was the most important thing that I'd done. Because a lot of people, I've seen it at the moment with clients I'm working with, and someone asked me a question. One of my clients that took my program asked me and said, Johnny, do all your clients succeed? I said, no, they don't. To tell you the truth, because some of them don't want it bad enough. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm a great coach. Some of them stop, they sabotage themselves. But the ones that succeed are hungry. They're the same way I was. They make the commitment. And no matter how good a teacher is, you cannot force someone if they're not willing to do it. You can only guide, instruct, support, teach what you know, tell them what you think's best for them, where they're going wrong. If they don't do it, there's nothing you can do. You can't force people. That's abuse, it's bullying. You can't do that. So a lot of people succeed, but there's a big amount of my clients who get to a certain point and they sabotage it, they quit. They don't stick at it, unfortunately, and I've come to realize that. And I used to think that was a negative, it's a positive. The best teachers in the world, their success rate is quite low because the clients don't follow through. It's nothing to do with the teacher, it's just students. Listen, I could blame all my teachers, I don't. It's down to me. When I worked with my mentor, he changed my life. I followed through. I continued with the coaching. So, there's only so much that you can do. And that's in everything in life. So I made the commitment before I'd done it. I did it before I'd done it, if that made sense. And that happened because of listening to Les Brown and praying. And I was hungry for it. As he said, you got to be hungry. I'm not talking about hungry for food, hungry for success and being willing to go through the rejections, the bumps, the judgment. All of it was a growing process for me. Everything that happened to me helped me. Being judged, being criticized online, failing, going through embarrassing situations, I never gave up. And a lot of that big part is my father. And I give credit where it's due. What he installed in me, what he taught me as a young man, the strength he had, which come on to me. It's in the genes. It's in my genes, definitely. And to add on that, Les Brown, good people that I was around, and the negative people and people that traumatized me. When you've been traumatized and you've been put down and made to feel below human, I'm not saying everyone, I can only speak on myself and what I've seen with others that I've helped. It does something to you. Maybe people that haven't been through a traumatic childhood or been bullied or been abused, or maybe they don't have that, they don't need to have it. But someone like me had that, and I'm thankful that I did. It was a painful lesson to learn, but nonetheless one I don't regret now. So all these things that I thought about myself weren't true. I used to think I wasn't intelligent. I don't believe that anymore. There's no way I believe that. I know I'm smart, I know I'm intelligent. I'd have to be to do what I've done and achieve what I've achieved. I'm not being big-headed. I always want to remain humble. I pray that I'm humble every day, but I'm not going to put myself down and say things that I know are not true. I thought I was ugly. I thought no woman would want to date a guy like me. It isn't true. I don't believe that anymore, which is why I don't have that problem. I thought I could never make money. I don't deserve it. I grew up poor. I'm going to stay poor. It isn't true. I've made a lot of money over the years doing something honest and changing people's lives, and I've helped other people to make money. That's not true. I believe that I could never be confident because of my anxiety. That's not true. So that's why I have such a passion and such a confidence in committed clients. And I use the word committed because in my experience of teaching for 10 years, if you're not committed, you're not going to change. It doesn't matter how good. Listen, Les Brown for me is number one at what he does. There's no one that can replace him. But if I wasn't committed, it would be useless what he's saying. It wouldn't work for me. So you have to take responsibility as an individual and not blame other people for your failures, because it's all down to you. And Les made me realize that. But the spark, the motivation, the wisdom, the hope that he gave me, second to none. That's why I always thank Les Brown. It's incredible. So you asked me to tell this story, and I'm telling it again, and I'll continue. And that's what happened, really. It really is a fairy tale. It's crazy, because sometimes I've got to pinch myself to see the life that I live and the people that I've met and what I've achieved. You can't always process it sometimes. You're just so busy. And, sometimes I don't always want to be going on about what I've done. I just focus on what I'm born to do, and that's help other people. So, I'm going to be honest with people. I'm not going to lie. It was painful, very, very painful, but it was worth it because it weren't painful the whole time. And there was so much joy in it. And to be where I am now, would I go back and change it? 100% not. I wouldn't live the life that I live. I wouldn't have learnt the lessons I've learnt. I wouldn't have met the people that I've met. And also, obviously, I made a lot of mistakes as well. I was a good person growing up. I done, like we all do, I done things that were not good. I didn't always treat people well because I was treated like trash. So you have to take responsibility and own your mistakes. Well, at least I feel that I had to, and it's a continuous journey. So absolutely life-changing when I heard that message. Amazing, really, that, I remember even thinking, wow, this guy's from America. I'm from England, UK. We've grown up in different countries and we're so far away, but he's been able to reach me in such a powerful, personal way where I feel like he's talking to me personally. I feel like he's in the room helping me, literally talking to me like he knows me, he knows my struggles, he knows my potential. That's the power of great teachers and someone who's gone through challenging times and has overcome it. It's absolutely beautiful. He saved my life, he changed my life. Obviously, my faith, family, all those things play a part, but I'd be lying if I said that Les Brown didn't change my life, because he did. Listening to it at that time was just, the timing was just impeccable. But my work ethic, which comes from my mum and dad, 100%, especially, well, I'm not going to say mum or dad, both of them. But it's just in the genes to work hard. I think when you don't have much, it makes you work hard. You're just determined. That's the best way I can put it. So hard work, you know. I was, well, at least in my own life, I think everyone will relate. I was an underdog. No one expected me to do what I'd done. Everybody put me down. But Les didn't. He said I could do it, and he was right. I went and did it. And now I'm doing it. So that's my story. That's the story with Les Brown, hearing that motivational message on YouTube on a cheap phone with just enough credit to listen to it, and taking that wisdom and then going out and applying it and doing exposure therapy. And I've said it in my last video. Over a period of 18 months, I faced everything. I went to events, I went on dates, I met new people, I started a business, I went to business meetings, and it's crazy that most of this stuff was just naturally in me. And I said it to a client the other day, everything's in you. Most of the things I'm asking you to do, you know them. They're common sense, but it's the courage to do it. It's the guts to do it and to stick with it and work through the pain. You know, no pain, no gain. No pain, no growth. No pain, no money. No pain, no beautiful girlfriend. No pain, no changing people's lives. I'm sorry, man. There's a lot of people that are not honest. They don't tell the truth. I'm not into that stuff. I tell people the truth. I want to tell you because it's the truth. It's a very painful process that you've got to go through, but it's worth it. Because what's the alternative? The alternative was I might have killed myself. I would have been in pain forever. My mental health would have gone down the toilet. I would have stayed where I was, and there was an option for me no more. So it's a positive pain. So, you know, it's a catch-22. If you don't live your dreams, you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. That is a fact. That's what I've learned through living. But if you face your fears and pain, yes, you're going to experience pain, but at the cost of having joy and peace. It's like Mr. David Goggins says, you know, on the other side of pain and suffering is greatness, is that great peace that we're all looking for. But most people, they want great peace. They want to be anxiety-free. They want to be confident and wealthy and happy, but they're not willing to do the work. And I did the work. And that's really my claim to, I don't mean claim to fame as in fame, I'm not interested in fame, but it's just a saying, that's my claim to fame, that I did the work. I might not have been the most talented, according to some people, or the most smartest, or the best looking, or the most privileged, whatever you want to say, but I was hard working. And that's the key thing, I think. Those two things, commitment and hard work. When you've got those two things, you've got a recipe for success, especially in the area we're talking about today, which is anxiety disorders for men. So anyone can do it, 100%. I always say, I don't know what normal means, but in a certain context, I'm normal. Most people can relate to me. I'm not someone that... So yeah, sorry the video cut up there. So yeah, I'm not someone that you'd probably see and think, well, I can't relate to him. He's unrelatable. I'm a normal person. But everybody can do great things if you're willing to commit. So that's my story, right? Now, those of you that would like to work with me and do coaching, I've got some upcoming programs coming up, weekend programs for anxiety, specialize in the area of dating and relationship building with women and improving with people in general. This program is very popular. If you want to know more about it, then send me an email in the box below. There'll be a description where I go into it more. I'm a bit tired now from doing this video 30 minutes. I'm going to make a separate video and explain more about the program, but most of you probably know about it. So the next one is in October, the 22nd and the 23rd, I believe. I've got a couple of spaces left at this point in time. The next one will be in November. I'm going to leave the dates below this video. So you've got 2 dates there. You've got enough time to book. If you can't make the October one, then you've got the November one. But yeah, please take my advice. And I'm confident my story, well, it's always helping people. But yeah, it was a pleasure to share it. It feels good to talk about it and inspire people. And I'm glad that you guys appreciate it, all right? I'll speak to you guys soon, fearless.